Okay, so these three softwares have been responsible for allowing us to generate over $40 million. At this point, it's actually well over $50 million through one specific funnel for our clients in the last 3 years. So those three softwares are Manychat, Slack, and Typeform. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how we use them, how we set them up, what we use them for, and basically pull back the curtain and show you the behind the scenes of how we're setting those funnels up and how we're able to make insane amounts of money for our clients with those funnels. Now, just to be clear, a big contributor to those funnels are the DM setters that we're working with. I run a company called dmsetting.com. I'm going to talk about that here in a second, but we use DM setters. DM setters are the core of this funnel. Now, the way we approach DM setters is we don't work with human robots. We don't work with $3 an hour Filipino VAs. We only work with emotionally intelligent people that have invested in sales education, that are sales professionals, and that can talk and sound exactly like you. That's how we're able to achieve the results that we're able to achieve. Not by working with $3 an hour Filipino VAs. So that's out of the question, right? Okay, that's not what we're doing. Now, what I'm going to go over more specifically in today's video and what you can expect to get out of it is why we use Manychat, how we set up the platform. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you the CRM tagging system that we're using. I'm going to show you the main automations that you need to set up and how to set those up, the lead assignment and how we approach lead assignment between multiple DM setters. I'm going to show you how to get leads into Manychat and how to generate those leads from your Instagram and basically get them into Manychat. I'm going to show you how you turn them into qualified calls booked. Then I'm going to show you the IG DM setting KPIs that we have for each DM setter in particular in general. So that's the Manychat side of things. Now on Slack, I'm going to show you what we use Slack for, the channels that we always use and how we have it all structured, and then the reporting, which also obviously happens through Slack and through Google Sheets. I'm going to show you that in a second as well. So that's the Slack side of things. It's obviously the thing that allows us to communicate and that allows, this funnel to stick together. And then last but not least, obviously Typeform. Typeform is a big thing here. So I'm going to show you what we use Typeform for. I'm going to show you the questions that we put down on the form, typically with clients, the financial qualifiers, which is going to be super important. What's a qualified lead, what's an unqualified lead, and how we structure that for the max amount of conversions, and then the logic behind it and what we do with the people that are unqualified. So now, before I actually dive into all of this, I'm going to take a quick second and introduce myself. So if you're new to the channel, my name is George Nita. I'm the founder and CEO of dmsetting.com, which right now is the biggest done-for-you DM setting staffing and management firm in the entire info coaching industry. I've generated over $50 million in high-ticket sales through DM setters in the last 3.5 years. And right now, my company, dmsetting.com, we're generating just over $2.2 million per month with the process that I'm about to share here for all of our clients combined collectively. Okay, now some of the results that I'm able to actually share publicly, a lot of what happens with our bigger $1 million+ a month clients, I'm not allowed to share here publicly. So I'm just going to show you some of the results, not all of the results. So Raz and Paraship have been able to help me go from 125K to 600K per month. Rainmaker Family, we helped them pretty much build a department from scratch that added an extra $2.5 million a year in less than 3 months. Bash and Slot, we went from 60 to 500K per month with a new B2C program a couple of years ago when he first launched it. Alexi Michael went from 30K to 250K per month within 6 to 7 months. This is all cash collected, by the way. This all comes from the DM setters, if I wasn't clear enough about that. And then Paul Hilsey went from 190 to 470,000 a month within 5 months. So those are some pretty decent results here, I'd say. Now, if you want to see more of the people that we've worked with, you can head over to the website, dmsetting.com. I'm sure you're going to recognize a lot of the names that we have in there. So I'm going to dive right in to Manychat. Why we use Manychat? So obviously, it allows us to connect with Instagram and Facebook super easily. It allows us to automate manual tasks, such as responding to comments, follow-ups, so on and so forth. And we can have separate inboxes and pipelines for each DM setter, which allows us and our team to go in and review specific conversations for specific DM setters and give specific feedback to specific team members, which is invaluable to us. It's very, very, very important. Now, when it comes to setting up the platform, the setup is super easy. I'm not actually going to be able to walk you through how to set it up, but what I will be able to show you is you just want to go over on Google, just type in Manychat, go to the first link. If you don't have it already set up, just click on get started and they're going to walk you through all the steps. It's going to take 5 minutes. You got to connect your Instagram, you got to open up some permissions on your Facebook, and then boom, that's your Manychat account fully set up, fully done. So setup is going to be super easy. The reason why is because I'm already logged in like 20 different Manychat accounts. So whenever I click on it, it just takes me to the account rather than to the sign up page. Now, the next thing I want to go over and quickly break down is the CRM tagging system. So over the last couple of years, I've developed a CRM tagging system that we use specifically through Manychat that allows us to be very effective and not have to deal with a million different stages and tags and pipelines and all that stuff. Just keep it very nice, very neat, and we only track the key conversion points of the conversation. So obviously, in the CRM tagging system, you'd have, everyone that comes in through an inbound call to action. So those are people coming in from a resource, people coming in from a more direct hand raiser. For example, I'm looking for 5 people that want to, work one-on-one with me and so on and so forth. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Then we have discovery. which is basically the discovery stage of the conversation, as the name suggests, right? So when you talk about their situation, their challenges, their goals, and so on and so forth. You're going to see here for each of the tags, we have an LT tag, which stands for long term, okay? So if I have someone in the discovery tag that I'm speaking with, they end up ghosting me when I ask them about the goals, and then I do my entire follow-up sequence of 5 to 7 to maybe even 9 or 10 follow-ups over the course of a couple of days or weeks. Then if they still are not responsive at that point, we're going to move them over to discovery long term. So that's how we keep it very, very nice and clean. And then same thing applies obviously for all the other long-term tags. Then after discovery, you have the next important conversion point in the conversation, which is a call proposal. So that's what CPP stands for. Then you have call proposal long term. After the call proposal, obviously you're sending over the calendar link. We don't book calls manually ourselves. We found that manual booking actually has lower conversion than sending links and keeping people accountable to book in themselves. So you have the send calendar links, obviously the call booked links, no show reschedule, client when they buy the program. Post-call follow-up, which is basically people that had a sales goal that didn't end up buying. So this is a post-call follow-up. Obviously, we go in and we follow up with all those people, and we have a very, very in-depth sequence that allows us to do that, and typically take 20 or 30% of those people and actually turn them or get them to book in a second sales call, and then eventually get some of them to close, right? Then you got long-term for this as well. You got deposits for people that place down deposits. Follow up every now and then with those people to make sure we keep them warm. You have DQ, not a fit, and then inactive, which is people that have ghosted for over 2 to 3 months. Those are all the tags. Now the way you set those up in Manychat, so settings, you want to go over to tags, just like this, and then you want to go in new tag, and then obviously you start creating those tags. You have CTA, discovery long term, so on and so forth. I'm not going to do it now because we have a million different tags here with this account that we're working with, but you get the point. It's super straightforward, okay? So that's how you do your CRM tagging system. Now, for the main automations that you need, there's 2 main automations here that you need for like actual messaging, for getting people into the inbox and having speed to lead whenever you have new comments, new DMs, and so on and so forth. So the first one is you have a free resource, comment, or a DM call to action. You might put up a story or a feed post saying, hey, if you want access to this specific resource that I just put together, DM me the word X, Y, and Z, and I'll send it to you, right? So that's your automation there. I'm going to show you in a second how we set those up, and I'm going to break down the logic behind it. And then the second one is going to be the inbound DM or, direct hand raiser type of post. It could be a post, it could be a story, it doesn't really matter. This is where you say, hey, I'm looking for 5 people. I'm looking for the next 5 people that want to join my, offer or group, whatever, and get my personalized one-on-one help. DM me the word I'm in, right? For example, or interested or whatever. So it's like, that's a more direct call to action where they don't actually receive something in return. So you get higher intent leads. So those are the 2 main automations. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we set those up, the resource ones, because I think this is going to be super valuable. So I'm going to break this down. If it's the first time using Manychat, don't freak out because everything's going to make sense. It's a super easy platform to use. So the way Manychat works, you have a trigger, right? So you have here, the trigger is whenever someone replies to our story or whenever they comment on our post. We have the event, and you have, all the different spelling types that people could put down, a little bit of typos here, dots at the end, double letters at the end, exclamation marks, and so on and so forth. Then you have the exact same thing for comments, okay? So story replies, comments is typically, the type of call to actions that you're going to be doing. From there, we basically have a condition that checks whether we send this resource before or not. It's going to make here sense in a second. So if we send this resource before, then we basically say a message that says, hey, I already sent you the training earlier. Did you have a chance to watch it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If we did not send the resource before, then we're going to add a tag that basically labels them and lets us know it's, the CTA tag, that we've actually just sent out the resource to make sure that they don't get this resource, sent out multiple different times if we have multiple different keywords for the same resource. From there, after we assign a tag, we have our randomizer. In this case, we have a 25 to 75% assignment between 2 of our DM setters here. From there, we have a message that says, hey name, how's it going? I saw that you're interested in learning more about X, Y, and Z. Do you want me to send over the info? We have a button that they need to click. From there, they get sent the info that they opted in for or the resource that they opted in for. And then we ask a question here at the end. Sometimes it's like, hey, were you able to access it? Okay. Sometimes it's, hey, where are you? Like, what are you reaching out from? Where are you based out of? What industry are you in? What are you doing for work right now? What motivates you to learn more about YouTube automation or Amazon, so on and so forth. There's not really right or wrong here. It really does depend on the type of industry that you're targeting. In this case, for example, we're targeting real estate agents with this specific client right here. So that's how you set this up. Now for the more intent based, right? like DM, like direct hand raisers, it's super easy. You just have the trigger, then you basically have a small delay. So you don't instantly send out the message, you just give it some time to make it seem like it's actually you responding. And then it would be something along the lines of like, hey, appreciate you reaching out. What has you interested in learning more about this? Or, what are you based out of? Is typically the main one that we use, especially with B2C. Now there's two more types of automations here that we're using, which is equally as important as the ones that I just walked you through. And that is, if you're in a B2C niche, we have an explanation voice note in the client results video. So those are voice notes that we trigger manually in Manychat. Obviously, the explanation voice note explains the business model. So if you were to do YouTube automation, say, or Amazon FBA, then you just have a 40-50 second voice note that briefly explains that business model that creates buy-in to your prospect. And then you have a client results video outside of that we might send every now and then, or maybe even in every conversation, depending on how hot or warm your leads are, to explain more about the process, to show some of your results, and then to show some of your clients' results. This really helps a lot with creating a lot of trust over the DMs, and we typically keep both of those under 60 seconds. So if it's B2C, you really want to have those two. Regardless of the niche, you also want to have a call proposal voice note. This is typically about 20 seconds where you invite people to hop on a call. And then you want to have some sort of objection handling voice notes based on the most frequent inbox objections that you're seeing. You don't need this day one, to be honest. You can do this like a month or two down the line. It's just going to help you further optimize the department. It's not like a make it or break it. That's it for the automations. Now for the lead assignment, what I typically like doing is I just want to keep it free for all. So let's say you're just building this out from scratch. You're hiring 3 people. I'm just going to put it on free for all, and I'm just going to let everyone just go in there, and basically the best man wins, right? Like that's how I treat it. You're in there, you're given leads, you're going to go in, you're going to hunt, you're going to create your own opportunity. It's free for all. The person that has the fastest speed when it comes to claiming leads, that's the one that should have the most leads, because that's obviously the one that's hungriest out of the team, out of the bunch. Now with time, what's going to happen is you're going to get to a point where you're going to have 2 or 3 really solid people in your DM setting team. And at that point, we typically like doing, because we know we can trust them, we know they're solid, we typically like just giving them a percentage that's equally distributed to all of them, right? So if we have 3 people on the team, then we basically give them 33% each. Or if you have 2 people, we'd give them 50-50. Or, based on performance, you're able to alternate between that and just give more to your top performer, less to your other people on the team. But initially, I really recommend free for all. Now, when it comes to getting leads into Manychat and basically generating leads here, super easy. 2 of the main avenues to generate leads we already just covered here when I showed you the automations. So the first one is a story call to action for a direct hand raiser or a free resource. The second one is a feed post with a comment CTA, either for a direct hand raiser or a call to action for a resource as well. So both of them work very, very well. Now, the third one is reaching out to your followers, sending outbound DMs and initiating conversations that way. Now, the thing with this is you need to be logged into Instagram to be able to do outbounds. Manychat doesn't have that functionality built in, but you can just get one of your DM setters, get them logged in, have a KPI of like 120, 150, maybe 200 per day. You should be golden, aim for a 20 to 25% response rate, and you're going to get another, 40, 50, even more leads, depending on your response rate per day, every single day in your inbox. This is really, really good as well. By the way, when it comes to all 3 of those things, I have another video on the channel that breaks down with specific examples, what kind of story call to actions, what kind of like direct hand raisers put out, and then what kind of outbound DMs and what kind of outbound messages to follow, as well as KPIs and how you want to set everything up. So go watch that other video after you finish with this one, just so you can go more in depth and so you can get a better understanding of how all of this works. Now, when it comes to turning leads into qualified booked calls, there's a couple of different things that you want to go over here in a DM conversation. Again, I have other videos on the channel going a lot more in depth into how to actually do this and the scripting and the process and the framework behind it. But you want to follow the DM setting framework that I always talk about, which is get their motivation, explain the business model if it's B2C, discover their current situation, discover their desired situation. Is it to replace or supplement their income? If so, what is their specific tangible numbers goal? Okay, so I'm looking for a number. Then you do the call proposal, then you do the call booking. Obviously, after the call booking, that's an entire different story to make sure they show up, to make sure they're nurtured, to make sure you build more trust, and so on and so forth. But that's a story for another day or a video for another day. Now, as far as the KPIs, just to quickly cover this with you as well, you have your Instagram daily KPIs. This is typically per day per DM setter. So while they're supposed to be active during their shift, we're looking for less than 2 to 3 minutes speed to lead on obviously as many new inbound conversations as they might get on a daily basis, as that's not something that they directly control. When it comes to outbound conversations, we want to do 100 to 125. Sometimes we push it up to 150 for every DM setter. I typically wouldn't recommend doing more than 250 per day, just to make sure you're not going to risk your account or the safety of your account. As far as follow-up messages, we shoot for 200 to 300 per day. And then calls proposed, 8 to 12, links sent, 6 to 10, and then calls booked, 5 to 8 is what we want to see typically on an average day from a DM team or from a DM setter that we're working with. So that's Manychat and basically Instagram there for you. Now for Slack, it's a lot easier because with Slack, it's just a platform that allows us to have all the team communication centralized in one professional place. And then what we also have on Slack, or what we use it for, is we have channels for every specific department, for every specific piece of information that we might need as far as reporting, calls booked, all those little automation. I'm going to dive right into the channels that we're using. We have two main channels, or we have two main types of channels. So we have reporting channels or automation channels, such as the DM setter end of day report, the triage or the phone setter end of day report, closer end of day report, applications received through Typeform, calls booked, calls rescheduled, calls canceled, new payments, and then so on and so forth. You might have other things depending on your company and the way you run things in your company. And then we have actual communication channels, right? So we have an entire sales team chat for, general announcements and so on and so forth. We have a setter closer. I'm really a big fan of this. A DM setter closer chat for fast feedback loops, confirming calls, handling no-shows. Closer might be running over. They're going to tag the DM setter, be like, hey, Johnny, I'm running 5 minutes late to this call. Please let the lead know. And then we just be on top of that. So this is a really good thing to set up if you don't already have it set up. We have a DM setter chat, just specifically with DM setters. We have a QC chat or a QC channel, what our QC team sends all the QC reports daily. So we have a QC person that goes in, QCs all the DM setters multiple times per day. We have multiple people doing that in our company for all the different teams that we're working in, and they send us those reports on a daily basis. So we have visibility over what's actually happening in the DMs, who's working, who isn't, who's hitting KPIs, who's doing the right things, who's being active, who has good speed to lead, and so on and so forth. Then obviously you have your leadership chat for all the department heads, and then anything else that might be relevant depending on how you're running your company and how you have things set up, of course. Now, as far as reporting, we have two types of reporting here that we implement with our DM teams. So you have beginning of day reports and end of day reports. Beginning of day reports, this is an example of BOD reports. So we just have them send a good morning message whenever they log in. This is at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8:44 a.m. Eastern, right? 10 a.m., 10:45 a.m. Eastern. So depending on whenever people start, they would just send a message to let us know and let everyone know that they're active. The reason we do this is because when they're active, they're supposed to be reachable on Slack and get back to anyone's messages in the team within 5 to 10 minutes. So that's the expectation that we always set with them. So that's our BOD. Now, end of day reports. Here are two examples of end of day reports. It's pretty much the same thing. Inbound conversations, follow-ups, calls proposed, links sent, calls booked. You have sets scheduled, sets taken, sets closed on that specific day. This allows us to calculate specific show rates and close rates for each DM setter in particular. You might see with time that one of your DM setters is clearly beating the rest of them as far as conversion metrics, as far as show rate and close rate. We've had it happen multiple times. So then by tracking this, you're actually able to see when that happens. And when it happens, you just want to go in and copy what that person is doing and apply it to the rest of the team, right? And then you have revenue generated, cash collected, obviously for every person, to track production, hours worked, and then we have them rate their performance. This is pretty much the same thing here. I just included two screenshots. Then we have a big dashboard that we're using where we track everything for all the DM setters. This team specifically pretty cool is we have just 3 DM setters. We started working together with them back in January of this year, 2025. They were doing about 13,000 euros, as you can see here, per month, 25K revenue, only 5 deals closed at a very poor show rate, close rate here. And then in the past couple of months where we worked together, we've been able to achieve some pretty cool results. If you look at the total cash collected amounts here, we've seen some really good growth. We're halfway through August, not even halfway through August at this point. It looks like we might be pacing another record month. We did a nice little 10x or so with 4 or 5 months. So it's pretty cool to see. And nonetheless, this is what the tracker looks like. We have a monthly summary, we have weekly summaries, and then we have daily summaries as well, where we can see for each of the DM setters on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis their performance, their numbers, and their inputs. Now, when it comes to Typeform, obviously the reason we use Typeform is to receive applications and filter qualified or unqualified leads, and then also redirect specific leads to specific pages based on their financial qualification and whether they're actually qualified or not. I'm going to dive in and I'm going to show you the form questions that we typically have. So this is very standard, very usual. You probably have a lot of those, especially if you're already running your offer. So you have a name, email, phone number, IG username. Then we ask them about their current financial situation, their motivation and goals. Then we have a financial qualification question. Then we have a how long have you known X, Y, and Z question. Obviously X, Y, and Z being the business owner. And then we have a tie down here for when they book the call that they're actually going to show up and they're going to make it on time. So those are the questions. Anything more than this we've seen just causes unnecessary drop off. All the information that you need or that your sales team or that your DM setters might need is going to be in those questions right here. So I'm not really a fan of expanding or going outside of those sorts of questions. The way we do our financial qualification is based on those two different questions right here. So you have current financial situation and then financial qualification. And I'm going to give you an example so you understand exactly how this works. For example, the current financial situation question would be something like, what best describes your current financial situation? Unemployed, making less than 40K, making 40 to 100K a year, making 100K a year plus. Depending on the market that you sell to, the demographic that you sell to, those might be different. You might have different ranges. We have offers where it's unemployed, making less than 80 to 150, 150 to 250, and then 250 plus, right? So it really does depend on your demographic. You're the one that should decide this, and that should really know what you want to shoot for here as far as those numbers. So that's question number one that we use for our qualification. Question number two is, hey, X, Y, and Z or YouTube automation is a business model that requires an investment of a specific range. So typically like to give people a range here of like 3 to 6,000, 5 to 10,000, 5 to 8,000. 5 to 8K works really well, but again, don't just quote me on that. Just go do your own testing. Every offer is different, every market is different, so don't take anything that I say here at face value. And then we ask them, do you currently have access to that kind of capital, etc., etc. Obviously, this is not how we word the question. I can't give you the exact wording of how we're actually doing this to get the results that we're getting. You can take this, you can look at other people and how they're doing it and you can create your own if you don't already have it. And then we have 3 different answers to this one. Yes, I have the funds, I have access to the funds, and no, I do not have the funds. Now, here's what we consider qualified based on those questions and based on those answers. So remember here, the financial or the current situation is unemployed, less than 40 to 100, 100K plus. And then yes, I have the funds, I have access, and then no, right? So there's a couple of different options here that we could take. Now, quick note here, if it's a DQ, what we typically like doing is if they're allowed to book after they're a DQ, then we have an automation that automatically cancels the calls and we reach out to them via DM to qualify. If they end up being qualified, we book them again. Or typically what would happen is we have a Typeform logic set up that sends them to a downsell page or to a DQ page telling them they're not qualified, and then we just leave it at that. We don't even let them get on the calendar. So it really depends on how you have things set up. For qualified leads, what a qualified lead is for us is if they're making less than 40 but they say yes, I have the funds, we consider them qualified. If they're making 40 to 100 and they say yes, I have the funds or I have access to the funds, again, we consider them qualified and based on this specific example. And then if they make over 100K and they say yes, I have the funds or I have access to the funds, again, we consider them qualified. All other cases are going to be DQ in this case, and we're going to reach out over DM to qualify and then rebook them, right? So if you have someone unemployed, regardless of what they put down here, if they're unemployed, we're not going to let them book, or we're just going to go in the DMs and qualify them. If someone's making less than 40 and they say I have access, I want to double check that access. I want to make sure they're qualified and that they actually have access to the credit or that they understood the question, right? Same thing for the 40 to 100. If someone has 40 to 100 but says, no, I do not have the funds, they don't go on the calendar. If someone makes over 100K a year plus and says, no, I do not have the funds, again, they don't go on the calendar. So that's how it works, and that's how we're doing it. Now, for the logic, as I said, it's super straightforward and super easy. So you have your application. If it's qualified, it goes to calendar. If it's not qualified, it goes to some sort of downsell. You might have a $1,000 package. You might have a $97 workshop or bootcamp or whatever. So it can be anything, or it can just be straight up DQ. You're not allowed to book. You're not qualified. Reach back out in the future, or go watch my YouTube videos, that kind of thing. All right, so that's pretty much it. So that's your Manychat, that's your Slack, that's your Typeform. That's how we set things up. If you have questions, drop them. Now, I'll say this is going to work best if you obviously have an audience of at least 100,000 or 80 to 100,000 followers. You have a proven product and a proven sales process, and you're selling at least $5,000 US. So if you have those 2 things in place, or those, I guess, 3 things in place, you want to chat to me specifically about stepping into your company, building this entire thing, this entire funnel out for you, managing the entire operation, so you can make an additional $100,000 to $300,000 per month or more, like many of our clients are doing. They can book a call with me. There's a link down below in the description. We're going to look at your funnel. We'll do a metrics breakdown. We're going to discuss implementation. And what this is basically going to be is just going to be a full free audit of where your DM team is right now and where they got to be for you to hit whatever revenue goal you have from this department. So if it sounds like something that you might be interested in, just go ahead, book it in. Worst case scenario, just leave with a bunch of free game and a bunch of free value and exactly what you need to do to implement this, or what you need to get someone on your team to do in order to implement it. So that being said, appreciate you sticking to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.